All right, welcome back, everybody. This is J.R. Flatter, and this is the Secrets of Leadership and Coaching. And our distinguished guest today is Dr. David Corderman. And Dave, um, I'll let you introduce yourself. You could do a much better job than I ever could.
All right. Well, thank you, Jr. My name's Dave Corderman, as Jr. said, and importantly, I guess for my background with regard to this interview, is that I spent 4 years in the Marine Corps. I spent 24 years in the FBI. One of my assignments in the FBI was being the head of what is called the Leadership Development Institute at the FBI Academy. There, we ran all the leadership programs that the FBI was responsible for, including the National Executive Institute Associates, made up of chiefs and sheriffs of the largest organizations in the United States, as well as a program called LEADA, made up of chiefs and sheriffs up to 500 in their organization. And then we did an outreach program with the uh, Australian Federal Police and the Scottish Police College, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and others that looked at leadership in the counterterrorism environment after the 9/11 attacks. And so, at any rate, I maintain a liaison with both the National Executive Institute Associates and the Leadership and Counterterrorism Alumni Program, and am currently on both boards of directors.
Great. And you and I also facilitate a local leadership program here in our community. That's where you and I know each other the best, I would say. So our listeners and our viewers are our peers. They're leaders, they're leadership developers, they're coaches. You come from that background, a very prestigious uh, resume in that regard. What advice or what information might you offer your peers or someone even thinking about getting into this space?
Well, I think you have to reflect on the reasons that you want to get in it. Primarily, when you're really considering this, you're looking at trying to model behavior. So you have to think through what it is that you're doing that you think is of value to others, and then you have to design your workspace around that. So you have to really model what you consider to be best practices, and obviously for all of us, that's not an easy task. But others are going to look to you to say, what are you doing that allows you to be in this space, and why do you feel like you're somebody that would add value to it? So
Hmm.
I really think a lot of self analyzation and reflection is a key component to the work that we're doing.
Yeah, that's a very crowded space. Everyone who's ever been a leader wants to get into the leadership development or the coaching space, and therefore it's a pretty crowded marketplace. And I think you and I've talked in the past about what it takes to be a good leadership developer. And that would be scholarship, your PhDs in leadership, some methods. I think you talked briefly about methods. How do you take that tacit knowledge in your mind and make it meaningful to somebody? And then the third is the experience piece. And certainly, an experienced leader can be an experienced leadership developer. But I think you need the other two as well, the scholarship and the methods. So I see you smiling.
Well, I think you bring up a very interesting point, which is that I think there's a lot of people that are leaders that do not have the research behind why they're good leaders. Some of us are raised in an environment where, at an early age, we're expected to be a leader. Birth order can be a part of that.
Hmm.
There's sociological factors. A missing parent or something forces you into a young leadership role. But there's also the component of intellectually understanding why people behave the way they do. And I think that's what you're really referring to, the study of leadership from that perspective. And obviously, there's a lot written about leadership, and everybody has a point of view. And if it was an easy thing to really or simplify, we wouldn't have so many books on leadership, and we do. So I think part of that is the study of what others have said as well.
Yeah, back in the days, and I know you've done the same thing with doing your literature review. There's 5,000 pieces of work in this field, and you have to read almost all of them if you're going to be thorough about it. But the average person getting into this space probably doesn't need to read 5,000 pieces of work. It's just more than just having more than experience. I think. So I know you also do some leadership coaching in the community program that you and I facilitate. Can you give us a couple lessons learned for giving 360 feedbacks or any kind of leadership coaching?
Well, I think all of us have to decide why we are in the space that we're in. And when I say that, wherever we find ourselves in our lives, it's obviously working for us at some level. And what I'm suggesting to you is that even somebody who may be battered or emotionally abused, at some level, they stay in that relationship because it's working for them. Might be dysfunctional, it might not be the healthiest environment, but for whatever reason, the individual has decided that at that point in time makes sense for them. Now, having said that, the whole goal, I think, of leadership or of coaching is to try to move people from a less functional area to a more functional area. Or, you could use the term self-actualization if you're talking at the very tip of the top of the scale. But it's to move us in a direction of positivity and out of a place that we might not want to be in. So I think a good coach is one that is able to help in that regard.
Wow, that's an incredible insight. All the years I've known you, I've never heard you say, put those two things together that even though you're dysfunctional in some way, you consider yourself functional. Yeah, that's incredible.
Well, my I would offer to you that it's very difficult for us to change things that we can tolerate,
Hmm.
and it takes a real exceptional mindset to move ourselves out of something that we can tolerate because
Hmm.
it's human nature to stay in a place that is tolerable.
Hmm.
So the human performance, particularly we're watching the Olympics right now. It's amazing what the mind can do and visualize. And as a result of that, I think any of us are capable of exceptional attributes as well as exceptional behavior. But we have to want to do it, and that I think is the real key. So it's helping the individual you're working with to look at those goals or performance objectives and to help move them in that direction. And that's what a good coach does.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, so we help them self-discover that through our skills and also help them as an accountability partner when they identify where they want to go and then helping them stay on track. That's good stuff. So, one of the requirements of being a distinguished guest on this podcast is you have to give up one of your secrets. And I know you got a bunch of them. So, what do you got
Right.
for us?
All right. Well, I think when you're to be an exceptional coach, I mentioned modeling behavior. I think that's a big part of it. But I also think when you're a coach, you're trying to move people in the direction of their self-stated goals,
Hmm.
and that really takes help. It helps to take a look and ask them what are their goals. Have them help to focus on those. But then um, the thing is, you need to ask them good questions, and I think any good coach is really good at asking questions. The other thing that I think a good coach is capable of is with that awkward silence, which is
Hmm.
where the question is raised and then the individual you're working with is forced to really think through what it is that they want. And you have to be comfortable with that because the answers all lie within each of us as to what it is that works for us and that will change our lives. Um, all we are as coaches is somebody that helps them figure that out.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest challenges when we're certifying coaches or helping people become certified as coaches. Learning to allow silence. It's just, I don't know whether it's how we're raised as children or how we're taught as to be leaders and give the answers. We call it the pregnant pause, and over time they get it, but it's still for many people never comfortable.
That's true. That is absolutely true. Yep.
So, what else you got for us?
Well, I will share with you one of the questions that I will always ask somebody when I'm coaching them, and the first question usually centers around what it is that they want to get out of our time together, because it's sort of the Stephen Covey begin with the end in mind, but
Hmm.
it's also setting the expectation for the time that you're going to spend with this individual. And so I'm always cognizant of the fact that, most people, especially if they're paying for service, will not come to you unless there is something that they want to change. And so you're again the pathfinder to help steer them by questions to where they want to go. So that's one of my first questions that I always try to ask when working with a client.
Smiling because every meeting I've ever been in with you, you start with that same phrase.
That's,
Where are we going? Let's
that's
start
true.
with the end in mind. All right. So the last thing I'd ask of you, graciously offer up a couple recommendations for future distinguished guests.
All right. Well, I have two that I would offer to you, JR. One is both a business partner of mine that you know, and that is Dr. Larry Nicholson, Nick Nicholson. He is in this space, and he's been in this space for about 30 years, and has done a lot of the work that you and I have done. So I think it would be of interest for you to talk to him. And then there's a practitioner who is a police officer, and I know a lot of senior police officers, but Tom Manger, if we could get him, he's recently taken a new role as the chief of the Metropolitan Police up in Washington D.C. But he was for years the chief of Montgomery County, and before that he was chief of Fairfax County. But he's been the president of the Major City Chiefs, and he's on the board of directors of the National Executive Institute associates with me. And if we could get him, I think he would be a terrific uh, person to interview. And
Yeah.
he's a practitioner of leadership,
Hmm.
obviously very successful.
So you bring up a good point. You come from a law enforcement background with a strong leadership background, in addition to your scholarship in leadership. Do you stick to the law enforcement community in your coaching, or do you coach and lead outside of the law enforcement community?
Well, for years I worked with police officers, and most of them were leaders in their field, obviously. But since I've retired, I have worked more with people outside of law enforcement. I still keep my finger in it through the boards that I'm on that are associated with law enforcement, and find great reward and value in all of that. But I have really tried to root myself in the community, and part of that is the work that you and I do with Leadership Fredericksburg
Hmm.
through the Fredericksburg Chamber of Commerce, and I've enjoyed that immensely because I've gotten to know leaders from all over this region. And the one thing that I missed through my FBI and my federal government career was I was so busy with national and international issues that I didn't have time to get grounded in the community that I live in. And we've been here 35 years. My two children went to high school here and were raised here. So it was really important to me to get involved locally.
Hmm. Well, thanks so much for being with us. Sure, there's a lot of nuggets in your words, a lot of wisdom in there. So I know you're a busy, busy man. So thanks for sharing some time with us.
Well, thank you, JR. And I want to say and send a compliment out to you as well. It's been a real pleasure and a privilege working with you in the Leadership Fredericksburg program. And I've learned a lot from you as well.
Thank you, sir. Have a great day.
Okay, you take care.
Bye bye.
Bye now.